everybody, my name is Setra. I'm your favorite out of this world VTuber, and today we're going to be talking about tarot cards. On my Twitch, I did do a quick tutorial with everybody about how to read cards, the Major Arcana, the Minor Arcana, all the different suits, and the court cards and whatnot. And my plan was to initially just cut up that VOD so that I could post it to YouTube. But, there were periods where I was talking to my chat and I was answering questions in the middle of my explanation. So I decided to re record it. Not only for people who want to look back on my tutorial and relearn from my Twitch chat, but for anyone that might want to learn tarot. Tarot is a great thing. I love it. And I'm happy to share it with you all. I'm really excited. So let's dive into it. Today, we're going to be learning with the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. I have my giant deck here. It's my teaching deck, and it makes it a bit easier to see the pictures so that we can examine them a little more closely. I highly recommend that when you learn how to read tarot, that you stick with the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, or you have something that's a derivative of it. Because the images usually pertain to the meaning, and that makes it a bit easier to memorize. Because a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? So that's exactly what we're going to do today. And I highly recommend that you do the same. And then once you've mastered tarot, you can get a deck that you feel more connected with spiritually or with visually. Okay? So, we're going to learn a little bit about this deck because I think it's important to kind of understand the history of a deck and familiarize yourself with it so you can appreciate it a little bit more. And most people, know that the Rider-Waite-Smith deck is kind of the OG deck of the OG decks in tarot. Everyone usually is familiar with its imagery. So for anyone that is new to the deck, Rider, okay, was the name of the publisher. Waite was the name of the gentleman who came up with the concept for the deck. And Smith is the name of the lady who did the art. Okay, so let's take a look at that. I will actually show you some other cards that come with the tarot deck. When you get your deck, you'll usually have a couple of extra cards that tell you which it is and has another one with a bit more information. It will usually also come with a little booklet that tells you about the cards. I personally don't agree with a lot of how the cards are interpreted in the booklet, so we're not going to use it because you have me. You have me anyway. So again, this is the publisher, and the gentleman who commissioned and came up with the concept for the deck was a gentleman by the name of Arthur Waite, and he was part of a secret society that was called the Order of the Golden Dawn. And the Order of the Golden Dawn actually influenced a lot of how we view things that are related to the occult or mysticism today. So Arthur Waite was a Freemason. He was a very religious person, and he had a lot of knowledge on secret information and on divination that he wanted to share with the world. He wanted tarot to be accessible for everybody so that they could gain comfort from it too, do their own readings, etc. So we're very, very grateful for Arthur Waite. He's the one that came up with the concept of the deck. Okay? And what he did is that there was another lady in the exact same order as him, and her name was Pamela Coleman Smith, and she was the lady who actually did all of the art for the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And I can show you some examples before we get into the actual meanings of the cards themselves. So you can see she actually cleverly signed all of the decks, all of the tarot in the decks. So sometimes it's hidden, like in the Fool. I don't know if you can kind of see it there or not, but her signature is there. Or sometimes it's a little bit more obvious, but this is her signature right here. Okay? So even though she wasn't named in the deck itself, she did sign all of the cards with her own little signature. Okay? And a lot of people don't have official reasons why her name wasn't included on the deck. I'm going to guess it's because she was female and it was hard for women to get published back then. But she is the one that did all of the iconic imagery for the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, and unfortunately she didn't get much recognition for her art in her lifetime. When she passed away, she was living in poverty and was relatively unknown, which is too bad because, obviously the art on the tarot deck has touched the lives of millions of people, and I'm sure that would make her very happy today. So Because of this, we do include her name when we reference this deck in particular. It is the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, okay? So that is a bit of the history of the deck that we are going to be working with today. Okay? So we're going to take a look at all sections of the tarot today. We're going to just take a quick little overview. You can see that this is a card from the Major Arcana. Okay? It has a Roman numeral at the top, and you can see that 0 here is the beginning of a cycle. Okay? In total, there are 22 Major Arcana. You'll know it's the Major Arcana because they have a very unique title at the bottom, and then, of course, they have their Roman numeral at the top. And these cards all represent a major event in someone's life, okay? So when we pull these cards, it's a significant event, and the life has been changed, okay? The rest of the deck is the Minor Arcana. And they have 4 different sections that are called suits. The 4 sections are the Pentacles, the Wands, if I can keep them straight here, the Cups, and the Swords. And I highly recommend that as you learn, that you divide your deck up just as I have, because it will make it easier to understand and memorize, okay? And these are minor events here, and these are the major events. Some people only read with the Major Arcana. I personally do not, because I feel like the smaller events here feed into the larger ones, and I highly recommend that you read tarot the same way. And once you've mastered these cards, you can put them into a preordained position called a spread. Okay, but one of the most common ones that beginners tend to use is the 3-card spread. Okay, and that can be something like, let me just get rid of the Pentacles here. We love the Pentacles, but we don't need them right now. So you would be once you've mastered your tarot, you'll be able to put them into something called a spread. So that could be like present or past, present, future, or me, them, us, or problem, solution, outcome. That is usually one of the more common spreads that beginners use. A lot of people ask me, hey, what about something called the Celtic Cross? I've heard of that before. And that is a more complex spread that involves 10 tarot cards. I highly recommend when you are learning to keep things nice and simple. The other thing about this video today is that we are not going to be doing reversals, okay? We are going to avoid reversals, because you'll essentially have to learn 78 cards twice. And we are going to do a video in the future about reversals and what they would potentially mean, but essentially you would just have to mirror the original meaning of the card when it's upright. So today we're just going to be sticking to upright cards. Okay? So we're going to be starting off with the Major Arcana. These are the ones that are most well known by the common public. You may have heard of the Major Arcana before. You've seen them in games like Persona. You've probably seen them in anime like Jojo's with the stands. So the Major Arcana are the ones that are most known to the general public, okay? Like all the normies probably have heard of the Major Arcana in some way. So let's start with what they mean. We are going to start with the Fool, and you can tell that he is the beginning of a new cycle, okay? The beginning of a new cycle. And you can see that he's just walking along, diddly-daddling, and he's not even paying attention to where he is going, and he is about to take a step into the unknown. So when this card appears in a reading, it can signify a new beginning, a new adventure, or even a leap of faith, okay? This is the card of a new beginning. He's stepping into the unknown, into a new adventure. So this is the card of new beginnings. Here we go. The Magician. Well, magicians create magic. They create something out of nothing. And you can see that the Magician has a wand, a sword, a cup, and a pentacle. He has everything that he needs at his fingertips to make something happen. So this is the card of manifestation. And manifestation is the ability to bring your wants and desires into the physical world. Okay? This card could also indicate that someone has all of the resources they need at their disposal to succeed in their goals. So this is the card of manifestation. Okay? And here is the High Priestess. You can see that she has something hidden in her cloak. And this is called the Torah. And this is the book of hidden knowledge. I know that people usually recognize the Torah as the Jewish holy book, but there are some sects of Jewish mysticism that believe that there is hidden knowledge within the Torah that we have not discovered yet. So again, the book of hidden knowledge. When this appears in a reading, we advise people to follow their intuition and listen to their inner voice, often because there is something that they just cannot see yet. So depending on the question that's being asked to the tarot, it could point to knowledge that is unknown to the person. Okay? So this is the card of intuition and listening to your inner voice. The Empress. So you can see she is a very matronly figure. She's usually drawn pregnant in the tarot, and she's surrounded by nature. So you can see the trees, you can see the waterfall, you can see the wheat growing from the ground. And then you can see the universal symbol for females. And this is actually the card of creativity. It can indicate motherhood and maternal influences, but typically this is a creativity card, like giving birth to a new idea, essentially. And this creativity can extend to personal projects, relationships, material comfort, and growth. So this is the card of creativity. And here is the Emperor. And what do emperors do? They lead, they rule. You can see him overlooking his kingdom and his court. So this is the card of leadership and authority. Okay, leadership and authority is the Emperor, as he naturally does. And then this is the Hierophant. You can see that there are two people seeking guidance from someone that is connected to the divine. So this is the card of mentorship. It could also indicate religion and spiritual guidance depending on the reading, but typically this is the mentorship card, and it examines both dynamics. So it could be you seeking advice from someone else or you giving advice to other people. This is also a card rooted with tradition. So for example, if the Hierophant appears in a love reading, or depending on the question, it could signify a marriage, because marriage is a traditional union between two people coming together. So this is usually the card of tradition and of mentorship. Okay? The Lovers. So the Lovers has multiple meanings as well. As you can see, she's looking at her. He's looking at her, and she's looking at something completely different from him. In some older cards decks, you can see that it's usually a man choosing between two women. And this can indicate a relationship or an affair, depending on the question. It doesn't always mean that, though. It can also indicate obsession and passion, okay? So if someone's asking a question about school, they could be obsessed with school. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are having an affair at school or they're going to find a relationship at school. The other meaning of this card is, if this is a question about a decision, is that this card can indicate that you need to follow your heart when it comes to the decision that needs to be made. Don't worry about the facts. Don't worry about anything that relates to logic. Just follow your heart. Make a choice that's authentic to you. That is the meaning of the Lovers. Okay, so obsession and passion, relationships, and following your heart. The Chariot. So if you think back to ancient times when chariots were pulled by horses or whatever they were pulled by, they charged ahead. They were charging ahead. So this is the card of advancement. Okay, it can symbolize success. It can symbolize victory through determination. It can encourage you to harness your inner strength to overcome obstacles and achieve a goal. This is the card of advancement. Okay. The Strength card. So you have to think of your inner strength and the courage that you draw from other people. So as you can see, that this lady has so much inner strength that she's able to approach the lion and look into its jaw. Okay, look into its mouth. And the Lion trusts her. He trusts her position, so he draws courage from her to remain calm and to maintain self-control. Okay, so this is the card of inner strength and courage, and also it can indicate self-control. But typically, this is the card of courage and inner strength. In some decks, this might be called fortitude. Okay, but inner strength and courage. The Hermit, so you can see that the Hermit, he is alone, there is no one around him, and he's looking down at himself with only a light to guide him. So this is the card of introspection. Okay, so this can mean soul searching, solitude, self-reflection, inner wisdom. It encourages contemplation from an inner search versus external validation. So this is the card of introspection. The Wheel of Fortune. So as you can imagine, life is always in motion. It's always in motion. And eventually it is everyone's turn at the Wheel of Destiny, at the Wheel of Luck. So this is the card of evolutionary change or karmic change. Okay? So cycles, destiny, luck, evolution. Your life is in constant motion, even in periods of good or bad. And there can always be a change in karma, okay? Evolutionary change. Justice. So you can see there's a lady, she's wearing her red cloak. She has the crown atop her head. She's holding the scale and the sword. It's a reminder that for consequences in our life, we can feel it both good and bad in our lifetime. And this is the card of truth, integrity, and balance. Like, obviously, if it's a legal question, it can pertain to legal matters. But it's, most readings, it's the card of truth and balance. So, it emphasizes fair decisions, accountability, being honest and fair. The other interesting meaning of this card is that if someone's trying to make a decision and this card is drawn, it could be encouraging them to look at the facts instead of following their heart. It mirrors the Lovers in that way. So when they have to make a decision, don't follow your heart on that necessarily. Make sure that you're looking at the facts. Make a logical choice when it comes to this decision. So the card of truth and balance. The Hanged Man, you can see that he is hanging around. He's waiting for someone to come and take him down. But when he's looking through the world at this new perspective, he has the divine glow. Okay? So the Hanged Man is the card of new perspectives. Okay? It advises you to pause, surrender control, and look at situations from a different angle to gain new wisdom. Okay? Obviously, depending on the question, it could signify that, you need to wait. But usually this is the card of new perspectives. Death. So this is a card that I find is most well known to people that aren't familiar with tarot. I find that it's usually a very beloved card among tarot readers, including me. I'm a Scorpio rising, so of course, naturally, I love the Death card. But this is actually the card of rebirth. It symbolizes major endings, transitions, and transformations. So we all go through necessary and significant phases of life, and we have to let them go and start anew, right? That's just the way life is. So you can see that the people surrounded by death are passing on, but there's a new life rising on the horizon. So the old life, the old way of life has gone, and the new one is beginning. Okay? This is the card of rebirth. In Temperance, you can see this is an angel. She has the divine glow, and she's patiently pouring from one cup to the other. She has one foot on land and one foot in the water. You'll notice in tarot that water typically represents emotion. So this is the card of patience and moderation. It can symbolize a calm and measured approach to problems and looking at the middle ground when it comes to conflict. Again, her foot's in the water, which is emotion, and her foot is on land, which is logic. So depending, like say for example, someone has a question about dealing with a difficult coworker because they never get along. Well, if you draw temperance, temperance could be encouraging you to compromise with that person. Moderation, right? And to obviously be patient. So temperance is the card of patience and moderation. Okay? The Devil, A lot of people become very uncomfortable when they see this card. Um, because at its root, the devil is about temptation, okay? You can see that there's two people bound by chains. But if you look very closely, you can see that they're capable of taking their chains off. They can take their chains off whenever they want to. They just choose to be distracted by their inner demons, right? So this is the card of temptation and breaking free from your own limitations, okay? Overcoming your limitations by confronting your inner demons, okay? This is the card of temptation and breaking free. The Tower, as you can see, there is complete chaos going on in this scene. The lightning has struck the tower, the fireballs are coming from the sky, and people are jumping out. However, the tower was bound to fall because it was built on the edge of a cliff. Okay, this is not a strong foundation. The tower was inevitably going to collapse. So yes, this is the card of chaos, but it's also the card of building new foundations based on what you've learned. When you build a new tower, you're not going to build it on the cliff edge because you've learned from the chaos that came with it when everything collapsed. So in a reading, this might signify things like a crisis, a sudden and disruptive change and destruction. However, it implies that you need to rebuild based on what you've learned and what you know, on solid foundations. Okay, any JoJo fans? Are there any JoJo fans watching this? You guys will know this one. But this is actually a really hopeful card. I think of this of the wishing star poem, whenever I see it, starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight, I wish I may, I wish I might have the wish I wish tonight. And it fits because this is the card of hope. This is the card of inspiration, of healing, of renewal, and it can symbolize peace and a brighter future, okay? So it encourages you to be optimistic for what is to come, okay? This is the card of hope. We love the star. This is the card of hope. The moon, so you can see that the dogs are so focused on what is obvious in front of them, which is the moon in this case, that they aren't noticing the little lobster going along the hidden path onto something different. So this is the card of mystery and hidden paths, okay? It can signify a time of uncertainty where things may not be as they seem. The moon can also advise people to be cautious. Deception or hidden issues could be present. And, it could also mean that hidden truths can still be revealed, could be revealed soon, or that you need to delve deeper into a situation to understand it fully. Okay? So this is the moon. It is the card of hidden paths and mystery. And also subconscious motivations. But again, hidden paths and mystery. And then the sun, you have to think of how the sun makes you feel on a nice summer day. It makes you feel warm. It makes you feel happy. You can see this little boy is smiling. He is frolicking outside. There's the sunflowers growing towards the sun because the sun makes everyone feel good. So this is the card of happiness, positivity, and success. It can also indicate a time of clarity and personal growth. Okay, so the sun is the happiness card. This is the card of joy. In Judgment, so you can see that the Archangel Gabriel here is waking up the dead, okay? So this is actually the card of awakening, okay? When you see this card, it indicates that you've not been living your full life or that you are not living the life that you should be living, okay? It can indicate a renewed sense of purpose and learning from the past to make the future better. Think of it as like a call to action. Because Gabriel is literally waking up the dead with his horn so that they can live the life that they're meant to live. Okay, this is the card of awakening. Okay. And then we have the world. And you can see that the world is at her feet. The world is at her feet. And this is the card of fulfillment. And it usually indicates the completion of like a major phase of your life or a project. It symbolizes like, being whole or the celebration of success before a new beginning. Because don't forget, if you look at the numeral, if you look at the Fool, okay, This is a new beginning, and this is the end of a cycle. So once we're fulfilled and we've hit this phase of our life, we move on to a new journey and take a new step into the unknown. Okay? That's a good way to think of it. So that is the Major Arcana. Okay, that's the Major Arcana. And now we're going to be moving on to the Minor Arcana. And like I said, there are 4 suits. They are the Pentacles, the Wands, the the Cups. Well, I suppose they're all aces, aren't they? That we're seeing on the screen right now. And then the Swords. So, they represent different aspects of our life. The Pentacles are the things that you have, your material possessions in the material world. The Pentacles are often associated with money, but it really pertains to anything that you have, the things you have. The Wands are the things that you do, so your actions in the physical world. The Cups represent how you feel or your emotional state. And then the Swords represent your thoughts and the way that you think. So again, the things that you have, the things that you do, the things that you feel, and your thoughts, the things that you think. Okay? Have, do, feel, think. Okay? So we are going to start off with the Pentacles today, but we're going to go into a little bit more detail about the suits in general before we start looking at the meanings of the Minor Arcana here. So when you look at a suit, we're going to use the Pentacles as the example. Oh, let me just get my stuff arranged. My apologies. So when you look at a suit, there are 10 cards, right? And then you hit the court cards. So we're going to keep the court cards very basic today because we are learning. However, these in more complex readings and as you come to understand, you will see that these can actually represent people, okay? And what they do in your life. However, today, like I said, we're going to keep things nice and simple. So we have the Page, the Knight, the Queen, and our King here. Okay, let me move that over so everyone can see a little bit better. So to keep things basic, to keep it nice and simple, the Page is the actualization of a new idea. The Knight moves forward with the new idea, or the opportunity, I should say. Not the idea, but the opportunity. The Queen nurtures the opportunity, and the King takes responsibility for an opportunity and makes sure it is stable. One common question that I do get a lot from people that are learning about tarot is, hey, Setra, what's the difference between the Ace and the Page? It's a new opportunity, right? They mean the same thing. Well, not exactly. Not quite. So let's say, for example, let's use an example, and someone says, hey, Setra, do you want to do a tarot reading stream with me? That is the opportunity being presented. So that would be the Ace. Okay, this is the opportunity itself being presented to me. The Page actualizes that opportunity. You can see he is thinking about that opportunity and how to make it happen. He's looking at it very closely. So that would be me, making my notes for the tarot reading so that I can explain how they work. Or, getting my deck ready, making sure my OBS is working. That would be the Page. The Page is actualizing that opportunity. Like I said, he is examining the opportunity that has been presented. Okay, that's an easier way to break it down. And like I said, court cards can be much more complex because in more deep readings, they can represent people that are being asked about. But today, again, we're going to keep it simple. And if you decide to keep reading the court cards these ways, that's okay. If that's what's intuitive to you, then that's totally okay. Okay? So let's start with the Pentacles. So again, these are the things that you have. These are the things that you have in the material world. That's what the Pentacles are about. So naturally, this is the beginning of a cycle. So the Ace of Pentacles represents a new beginning or a new opportunity in the material world. So that could mean things like a new job, financial gain, or a new home. It's a tangible, grounded start in the material world. The Two of Pentacles, as you can see, this gentleman is balancing his material possessions. It's all in balance. He's learning to juggle it. So this is the card of balancing multiple priorities, adapting to change, and juggling various aspects of your life. That could be your work-life balance, juggling your finances, juggling your schoolwork. So balancing and juggling in the material world, okay? And this card, this is the card of apprenticeship. As you can see, this gentleman is working on his monument here, and he's starting to get noticed. Okay, so this signifies a period of learning a trade or a skill, and it's like a successful beginning towards achieving your goals. He's starting to get noticed, right? So you're beginning to understand difficult subjects at school, a positive collaboration at work, recognition for being savvy in some aspect of your life. This is the card of apprenticeship and learning, okay? This card has multiple meanings. As you can see, he's standing on his material possessions. He's holding them close, and they're on his mind. So depending on the question, I feel like the Four of Pentacles encourages you to examine your relationship with your material possessions. And its meaning can change depending on the question. So it can symbolize stability, being secure, and frugal with your possessions, but it can also represent possessiveness, control, and greed. Right? So on the positive hand, you're saving your money, you're making sure your important heirlooms are safe, and on the negative side, you could be hoarding things, you could be holding on to your possessions way too tightly, you could be reluctant to let them go. So this card encourages you to examine your relationships with your material possessions. The Five of Pentacles, you will notice a common theme in tarot where 5 typically signifies hardship or loss. And this is exactly what this card is. This is the card of hardship. It can be representing isolation and struggle in the material world or the things that you have. And you can see in the art, they are literally out in the cold. So they could be out in the cold financially. They can be out in the cold academically. They can be out in the cold professionally, right? So this can indicate an illness, unemployment, financial struggles, grades failing. This is the card of hardship. The Six of Pentacles, this is the card of giving and receiving. And this card examines the dynamics of both. You may be in a position where you can help other people. You can see this man as being very generous and giving money to the poor. But it could also imply that you are looking for support and that you need help yourself. So this could be like, helping other students with their homework, or you would be receiving money or gifts from family and friends. This is the card of giving and receiving. Okay. The Seven of Pentacles, this is the card of evaluation. You can see that this man is watching his material possessions grow and he's evaluating them. They may not be ready to be harvested yet, and he can't reap the rewards quite yet, but he's observing them. He's evaluating them to see how they are doing, okay? His hard work is paying off, but they're not quite ready yet. So this is the card of evaluation, This is the card of evaluation and watching things grow. The Eight of Pentacles is the mastery card. As you can see, he is pumping them out. He has a lot of them. They all look really good. He is focused. This is the card of mastery. It represents dedication, craftsmanship, and building your skill to the highest level. Okay? This is the card of mastery. And the Nine of Pentacles is the card of independence. As you can see, she's not even looking at her material possessions. She can enjoy her expensive clothes. She can focus on her hobbies. In this case, it's falconry. It signifies self-sufficiency and enjoying the fruits of your labor. Okay? Material abundance, a sense of accomplishment. So this is the card of independence and self-sufficiency. And then there is the Ten of Pentacles. We've hit the end of a cycle. Okay, this is the card of permanence. It implies a stable legacy in the material world. So this can be generational wealth, an inheritance, family prosperity, successful business. It implies a stable legacy in the material world. And so we're going on to the court cards again. We're going to be keeping the court cards very, very basic because this is a walkthrough for beginners. In the future, I am going to be doing a video on court cards more in depth into what they can possibly mean. So that's for a later video. But for now, we're going to look at them in a very basic way. So again, the Page of Pentacles is the actualization of a new opportunity in the material world. He is actualizing it. You can see he's bringing it to be viewed and thinking about it, okay? So that can be, you know, having a business plan proposed to you, learning about budgeting, you're preparing to go to college. This is the actualization of a new opportunity in the material world, okay? The Knight is moving forward with an opportunity. In this case, in the material world, because again, this is the Pentacles, right? So moving forward with an opportunity in the physical world. The material world, the material world. So that can be making the business plan, starting the business, actively budgeting for the month and putting money in jars, starting a college study group so that everyone can have good grades, right? So this is putting things into action in the material world. The Queen, she nurtures those opportunities in the middle of the world. You can see she's kind of holding it in her lap, okay? A nice comforting spot on her lap. So she's taking care of her finances. You know, she could be looking into special savings accounts so that they can grow, or looking into investments. She's nurturing her business connections. You know, she's going to business groups and networking so that she can grow her business. She's advancing her academic goals. So she nurtures opportunities in the material world, okay? And then we have the King of Pentacles, and he takes responsibility and ensures stability for opportunities in the material world, okay? You know, he makes sure that he has a stable business and that there's a long-term plan. He responsibly handles his money. He makes sure that the money is in the account and that it's doing what it's doing. He's achieving his success through hard work and taking responsibility for his schoolwork and his grades. He takes responsibility for the material world, okay? And those are the Pentacles. Yeah, so those are the Pentacles. So now we're going to move on to the Wands. And again, the Wands are the things that you do. They are the things that you do in the physical world, okay? The Wands, funnily enough, tends to be associated with creativity and the element of fire. So let me go back to elements actually for a moment. So the Pentacles are usually associated with the earth. And that makes sense because you have all the possessions on earth, all the things you have on earth, right? And if you think about the things that you do, sometimes you need to have a fire lit under your butt in order to do things. Sometimes we swim and drown in our emotions because that is affiliated with water, naturally. And then we cut our swords through the air. We slice the air with our swords, right? So if you're really concerned with things like elements and stuff like that, those are the elements that are associated with the suits of the Minor Arcana, okay? So the Pentacles is the earth, the Wands are fire, the Cups are water, and the Swords are the air, okay? But anyway, let's move on to the Wands. Let's move on to the wands. So let's start. Again, we're beginning with a brand new cycle here. And this is the inspiration card. It signifies that you are going to do something new. So that could be wanting to do a new drawing or to write a new script. You want to work out and get fit. You're feeling inspired to do these things. So this is the card of inspiration. You're going to do something new. And the Two of Wands, this is the card of planning. You can see that he's contemplating the globe in his hand. You could be standing at the threshold, considering your next move, or preparing to take a risk outside of your comfort zone. So, for example, you're preparing to voice act a script. You're planning on how you want to post that online, etc., etc. This is the card of planning on what you are going to do. The Three of Wands. This is the card of putting something out into the world, which I guess would be dissemination, right? So this man has done something and he has put it out into the world, and he is looking down at what he has put out into the world, right? So this represents expansion, foresight, and the successful result of your efforts, right? It encourages you to go forward with confidence and look at the future with optimism. So, if you've posted your script or an ASMR or your art for the first time, and you're putting it out into the world, okay? You're putting it out into the world. If you're doing fitness and you join a group that keeps you accountable and they celebrate your achievements, you're putting that out into the world. You're putting the things that you do out into the world. The dissemination card. And this is the card of home. As you can see, these people are going home. So usually it represents a homecoming, but it can also represent, being in a relaxed environment, harmony, reconnecting with loved ones. So for example, this card, depending on the question, could imply that you're returning to your hometown for a wedding, going home for the weekend, revisiting your parents or an old friend. This is the card of home. Okay? Oh, and then we're back to the fives, and you can see that these people are all fighting with their wands. This is the card of conflict. It can be competition, arguments, a clash of egos. Any way that you can have a conflict, you have a conflict. And it can usually stem from ambitious goals or a desire to be seen and heard, aka the things that you do. The conflict stems from things you do, okay? And if you really look at the art, you can see that every person involved in this conflict is on equal ground. The card doesn't imply a winner or a loser either way. It doesn't imply any favor towards a particular party. It's just conflict, okay? So this is the card of conflict. And lo and behold, we have the card of victory. Heck yeah. So this is the card of victory. It means success and public recognition for your hard work. So, for example, if you were to draw a piece of art for a fandom and everybody loves it, that's a victory. You're being celebrated for your hard work. So, yes, this is the victory card. And then there's the Seven of Wands. This is the card of defense. This, obviously, you can see that this gentleman is defending himself from all the sticks or the wands that are pointed at him. So this symbolizes defending yourself and standing your ground, defending your position against challenges, and protecting what you've worked for, right? So this is the card of defense and standing your ground. This is the Eight of Wands, and this is the card of movement. It indicates speed, quick progress, and striking while the iron is hot. So you need to make a decision fast. You need to make a decision quickly. You need to act fast. You need to nip things in the bud. Okay? This is the card of movement and acting fast. And obviously, after all those defending and victories and acting fast, we're naturally a little bit tired. So this is the card of weariness. So you might be close to your goal, but you're feeling tired, you're a bit battle-scarred, you're a little bit defensive. And you just need to establish boundaries with people to protect your energy. So this is the card of being weary and being tired. Okay? And then we finally have the Ten of Wands. We're at the end of a cycle, and this is the card of being overburdened. As you can see, he has so many wands in his hand that he can't even see in front of him because he has so much that he has to do, right? So he can't really see the forest for the trees at the moment because he's so overburdened. There's so much pressure on him for what he must do. So he's taken on too many duties. So this is the card of being overburdened. You've done too much. Okay? Now we're moving on to the court cards. So the Page of Wands, this is the actualization of a new opportunity in the physical world, right? So you're looking into gyms and making fitness plans so that you can improve your health. You're beginning to write the outline of a script. You're considering an art project. This is the actualization of a new opportunity in the physical world, okay? And then the Knight of Wands, he moves forward with that new opportunity in the physical world. So, he posts his art onto the platform. He starts writing his script for the fills. He starts going to the gym. This is the card of moving forward or putting a new opportunity into action in the physical world. Okay? And then we have the Queen of Wands. She nurtures those opportunities. So if you're a writer or an artist, you learn about new techniques to foster your own skills. You're nurturing your skills because you're learning more, right? Doing self-care so that you can be at peak performance levels when you work out. This is the Queen of Wands. She nurtures the opportunity of the physical world. And then there's the King, and he takes responsibility. He takes responsibility for his opportunities in the physical world, for the things that he does. So, for example, if you're an artist or a writer, you make sure that there's no AI. It's authentic. It's something from you. Taking responsibility for hitting your fitness goals and not plateauing, and just taking responsibility, making sure that things are stable. Taking responsibility for things that you do. Okay? And those are the wands. Those are the wands. And then we're going to move on to the cups. Here are the cups right here. Okay? So again, the cups are the things that you feel. Okay? These are your emotional states, right? So the Ace of Cups is a new beginning emotionally or a new emotional connection. So that can be, in terms of love, in terms of empathy, compassion, happiness, it could indicate something like a new baby, a new friend, a new relationship. Maybe you've learned about a new cause out in the world and you've gained a lot of empathy for that. This is a new emotional beginning, a new emotional connection. The Two of Cups, this is the card of unions. So it can represent like a harmonious partnership. You can see these two are talking over their cups. Emotion, like a new emotional connection, mutual respect, vulnerability. So this is the Cup of Unions. It can mean like a strong professional bond or a loving relationship. So unions. And this is the Cup of Celebration. This is people coming together as a community or like as a group of friends or even like family. And they're celebrating like social gatherings and whatnot. So this is the card of celebration. Okay. And then we've come to this gentleman here. As you can see, he's bored with what he has. And he is bored with what he is being given. Okay. He's bored. He's not very happy, is he? So this is the card of being discontent, okay? This can represent feelings of boredom, dissatisfaction, and apathy. So he could be bored with his career. He could be apathetic towards people around him. He can be discontent with the direction of his life. This is the card of discontent, okay? He's bored. He's not very happy. And again, we've come back to the fives, and this is the card of grief. I don't think it's very, it's very hidden as to what this card means. He's dressed in black. He's not looking at the upright, stable emotions behind him. He's really, his cups are a mess in front of him. His emotions are a mess. He's grieving. This can indicate loss, regret, disappointment. Um, but as you can see, when he is done grieving and he's ready to pick up his cups, he can cross over into the new phase, right? Into something new, right? So this is the card of grief, but it is also implying that you can move on. This is also a card of moving on, the card of grief and moving on. Okay? And then the Six of Cups is the card of nostalgia. So let me move my thumb here. So there's a couple of interpretations of the art of this card. Some people think that this is the adult giving something to their child selves, or that this adult is walking away from their childhood as two kids play in the foreground. So obviously this is the card of nostalgia. It represents innocence, childhood memories, um, comfort, a reconnection with the past. Okay, this is the card of nostalgia. The Seven of Cups. This is the card of sorting through your emotions. Okay, so you can see this gentleman here. He is presented with multiple options. Okay, right? So he has a lot of emotions that he needs to sort through. And this card also reminds us that we should not pay attention to our fantasies and focus on reality. I always felt that these were all emotional fantasies, and then the glowing cup was reality. So this card is about sifting through your emotions, but being mindful of being realistic and not falling into your fantasies, okay? So the card of sorting through your emotions. The Eight of Cups, this is the card of walking away. You can see that he is walking away from his emotional past. Okay? He is leaving behind something emotionally unfulfilling into something new. This is the card of walking away emotionally. The Nine of Cups is the contentment card. You can see this gentleman is smiling. He's looking at me a little smugly, but we'll let that go. And you can see this gentleman is very happy with his cups. So this is the card of emotional fulfillment and satisfaction, okay? He's enjoying his job. He has a fulfilling home life. He's in a relationship that rejuvenates him. This is the card of satisfaction. He is content. The card of contentment. And this is the card that we all want to see upright in a reading. This is the card of happily ever after. Emotional fulfillment and satisfaction. Okay, right? This is the card of emotional security, domestic bliss, complete harmony, having the outcome you desire, the life you've always wanted. This is the card of happily ever after. Okay? And now we move on to the court cards. Again, we're going to keep keeping it nice and basic for everyone that's learning. So the Page of Cups is the actualization of a new emotional opportunity, okay? Actualization of a new emotional opportunity. Maybe he's making plans for a baby. He's asking a friend to set him up on a date with someone. He's planning on making meaningful changes to his life. He's looking into new ideas. This is the actualization of a new emotional opportunity. And then the Knight of Cups, he's moving forward with those emotional opportunities, right? So he's going on dates. He's actively trying for the baby. He's actively pursuing the new path in life so that he's more satisfied and happy. All right, this is taking action on an emotional opportunity. Action on the emotional opportunity. The Queen of Cups, she nurtures her emotions. She nurtures these opportunities, She's making sure that relationships are healthy for all parties and that everyone can grow in a positive way. She's engaging in emotional self-care so she doesn't get burnt out. This is the nurturing of emotional opportunities, okay? And then the King, obviously he takes responsibility for his emotions and his emotional opportunities. He protects the people in his life and makes sure that they feel good. He takes charge of his own emotional fulfillment. He doesn't live a false life. He lives authentically. He takes charge of his emotional opportunities and his emotions. Okay? So those are the cups. And now we're moving on to the final part of the tarot deck, which are the swords. And these aren't hard to remember, but for a lot of people, when they get readings, these are often the most difficult to endure because, again, these are our thoughts, and the mind is a very, very, very powerful tool, right? So let's start off immediately. Let's get into the Ace of Swords. Again, this is a new cycle, a new beginning, and this indicates a new way of thinking. It can signify a breakthrough, mental clarity, new insight, taking charge of the situation, looking at it logically, a eureka moment. This is a new way of thinking. This is a new perspective or a new way of thinking. Okay? The Two of Swords, this can be the card of indecision. It can indicate a stalemate or difficult choices. And the card encourages you to look within rather than going for external validation because she has her blindfold on, right? It's a difficult card because sometimes people can be unsure how to make decisions that can go wrong no matter what the outcome is, or making a choice regarding a situation where there's no progress that's really possible. This is the card of indecision or stalemates, okay? And this is the card of heartbreak. It can indicate grief, sorrow, mental anguish because of a betrayal, disappointment, or a conflict. It can also signify a painful separation. And, it's just the card of heartbreak, okay? Yeah. Card of heartbreak. The Four of Swords is the rest card. It's encouraging you to take a break. It's to prioritize your self-care and allow your mind and body to heal before you make new plans, right? So, taking a vacation from work or school, etc. This is the card of taking a break, right? And this is the card of isolation. You can see that this man is picking up his thoughts even though there are other people around him. Despite this, he's not turning to them for help. He'd rather be by himself. So this is the card of isolation. It can be self-imposed isolation, but it can also represent bullying or being alienated due to conflicts, being lonely, being in a hostile environment. It can imply a lot of things. And again, this is the 5, right? This is the 5. It's usually hardship or loss. So this is the card of isolation or alienation, okay? The Six of Swords is a transition card, and generally it's transitioning from things that are difficult into things that are better, right? As you can see, these people in the boat, they're quite tired, and there's wavy, rockier waters behind them, but they're going into smoother sailing, right? They're going into smoother sailing, so they're moving on from difficulty. So it represents transitioning and moving on from a difficult situation. Okay. And this is the card of deception. You can see that he's left behind 2 swords for whoever is in this circus back here, and he's taking 5 of the swords with him, okay? So this is the card of deception, cunning, and dishonesty, right? It could be that the person asking the question has been deceived by someone else, but it could imply that the person asking the question is being sneaky and manipulative themselves. They're taking underhanded approaches. They're trying to fly under the radar. It can imply that someone is being deceptive to the person asking the question, or the person asking the question themselves is being sneaky, right? So this is the card of deception. Okay? And this is the card of feeling trapped. It can represent being restricted and powerless due to self-imposed limitations like fear, negative thought patterns, self-doubt. But the art also implies that you can break free from these thoughts that trap you, because if this person who is bound and blindfolded were to walk backwards, they would not be surrounded by these thoughts anymore, right? So this is the card of feeling trapped and getting out of these thought patterns, of liberating yourself, right? The card of feeling trapped. And this is the card of anxiety. It represents fear, despair, the heavy weight of how your worries can, weigh on your mind. She's literally being kept up at night from her thoughts, right? So this is the card of anxiety. And then finally, this is kind of a alarming card to see. This is the card of rock bottom, right? Painful endings, complete failures, utter loss. But the thing is that when you hit rock bottom, you can only go up. Remember, this is the end of the cycle. It's the end of the cycle. You've hit rock bottom and there's nowhere else to go but up. So this is the potential for a new beginning and a transformation as well. Okay? So this is the card of rock bottom. And now we're moving on to the court cards, which again, we are going to keep nice and simple. So the Page of Swords actualizes a new way of thinking. Okay? A new way of thinking. So say, for example, he's looking into different therapies like cognitive behavior therapy or an exposure therapy so that he can change the way he thinks. That's an example, right? He starts learning about social justice causes because it's changing the way he thinks, okay? The actualization of a new thought or a new perspective. The Knight of Swords, he moves forward with this new way of thinking, right? This new perspective of his. So this could be him actively going to exposure therapy or some kind of therapy or a support group, so that he can change the way he thinks. This could be him getting involved in a social justice cause because he thinks about it and it changes the way he views the world, right? So this is the forward movement of the way you think or a new perspective, okay? The Queen of Swords, she nurtures these thoughts she nurtures these new thoughts or new perspectives. So, setting boundaries so that she can be at her strongest during therapy. Or, reading new books so that you can get a deeper understanding of certain causes or new ways of thinking, okay? So she nurtures her thoughts, okay? And then the King takes responsibility for new thoughts and new perspectives, right? So for example, if he went to therapy and he did all these things and the situation comes up unexpected, he is able to disperse those thoughts and implement what he's learned so that, he can be stable and be happy. He's taken responsibility, okay? Taking responsibility for a new perspective or a new way of thinking. And that right there is the end of the tarot deck, everybody. Congratulations. You've gotten to the end of the deck and you've learned what all of the tarot cards mean. So congratulations. And the main thing to remember is that tarot is very intuitive. When you learn to do your readings and learn how to connect cards together, trust your gut, trust your intuition. The cards are speaking to you and you can interpret them the way that you think fits, okay? And the main thing to remember about tarot is that tarot does not predict the future. Tarot is a guide, right? The only person that can predict the future or alter the future is the person asking the question, because we have the most powerful weapon of all, and that is free will. We can change our own destiny. If we get a tarot reading that we really vibe with, that can help guide us. On the flip side, if we get a tarot reading that we do not like, we have it in our power to change our outcome to what we want. So again, the tarot is just a guiding tool because we have free will, which is the most powerful weapon of all when it comes to our destinies. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed tarot. I hope you enjoyed learning with me. We do tarot readings on Twitch at Setra_VT. And I am looking forward to seeing you. I hope anyone who missed the stream got something out of this, that they were able to sit and relearn with me. And if you aren't familiar with me and you came across this video, I hope it was helpful to you. Okay? Thank you so much. Don't mind my little winking model. She's just giving you Morse code. I look forward to seeing you all in the future for future tarot videos or even on my streams, okay? We do a lot over there. We do tarot, we do games, we chat, you know, whatever we feel like that day. So, thank you again, and I appreciate it very much. I hope you all have a great day. See you next time. Bye.